in home inspection, a lot of times what you're trying to do is just CYA, right? And everything is judged on liability. So I'm going to follow standards of practice, and I don't want to do anything that's going to be make me liable in any way, shape, or form. And that's the standard that you're living to. But super inspector's done it totally different. We don't worry about liability. We want to serve the customer. And so the client, talk about that, Blake, kind of the client, how that came about in your mind. And,
Yeah, I just remember one night I used to sit in my recliner. That was my office, and write reports at night. I mean, I would
fall asleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we won't name names of the report writing software, but it was very tedious.
Yeah.
And so
I would spend
long hours.
I would spend hours at night
writing
reports. And I just remember one night, I would have dinner and whatever and sit down about 8 o'clock and start writing reports, and I'd go to sleep and wake up at midnight and work a little bit more and go to sleep and wait. And I just remember sitting there one night and thinking to myself, this report is just crap. It's just CYA everywhere, not giving any advice, not really telling the client anything. It's just, here's a possible defect, you need to get somebody else to look at it. Here's a defect, you need to get somebody else to look at it. And I said, I didn't feel good about that at all. And I could see it from my clients, with some of the complaints I would get. And you could see it from contractors saying, oh, that inspector doesn't know anything, or, that's not code or whatever. And so I said, I'm just going to start putting a lot more into these reports, even though everybody in the industry is telling me not to, right? Everybody in the industry is, oh, don't put all that in your report. Don't cite code in your report. Don't give recommendations in your report. Don't tell them how to repair it in your report, because all those things increase your liability. And I thought, if you do a great job for your clients, give them what they want, and build trust with them, then that's what really mitigates your risk, is doing a great job for your client. It's not, putting less and less, giving your client less and less of what they want. And so I started doing things like, we started structuring our statements in 3 ways. We would, describe the defect of what we observed, and then what are the implications of that particular problem, and then what our recommendation was. And our recommendation is not going to be always just further evaluation. It might be replace the batteries in the smoke detector, or something like, something more concrete. And then, because contractors were always coming back and saying, oh, that's not code, we don't have to do that, or the code says this, I started putting code references in the report. Again, where the entire industry is telling us not to do that, because it increases your liability. And the reason I did that was to give my clients the information that they needed to communicate with contractors after the fact. Because if a contractor says, oh, you don't have to do that, it's not code, they can say, well, here's the code, tell me why we don't have to do it, right? And I've never gotten any negative pushback on that, on having code references in our report, and since we've been doing it for 6 or 7 years. And our reports have been sent to TREC, and TREC hasn't said anything about it, the Texas Real Estate Commission. And lawyers have looked at our reports and not said anything about the code citation. So anyway.
So this is, I have to comment on this, because one, this drove me nuts when I was a realtor, of having inspectors just kind of give me the canned statement of contact a qualified professional. It was maddening. And then getting into the industry and seeing just how scared everyone is about this, liability that may or may not exist. I'm curious how you overcame that, because you're in, not only are you in the home inspection industry, you're in Texas, and that's like a double whammy of inspectors being scared. I think this is a PSA for the entire industry and everyone listening to this of you're the biggest and best company in the industry and you haven't had any issues with this and you're just going above and beyond for your clients. So it's refreshing as hell to hear. I wish more companies took this to heart and I think took this approach. So thank you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just about trying to differentiate ourselves, and it was really about my own conscience, honestly. I didn't feel good about focusing on risk mitigation and liability instead of focusing on my customer. And so I come from a hospitality industry background. So my first career out of college, actually I worked in college at a country club, and then my first career out of college was managing country clubs. And so that customer service was everything. And so it just didn't sit right with me to be the, the guy that just said, go find somebody else to look at this. I've done my job, right?
Oh,
Here's
gosh.
your report. I hope I never see you again. I mean, that's the attitude of the industry, right?
And it's a culture of your company and it's clear in the growth and the numbers. And so I think everyone should take a huge lesson from that in that doing right by the client can win in the end instead of just CYA.